"Have a nice day, ma'am," I said as I handed the customer her bag of groceries. The bag broke, dropping spaghetti sauce all over the ground and the customer's shoes. "I am so..." I started to apologize. She was not as understanding. My manager apologized and gave the customer a $50 gift card and a new can of spaghetti sauce, as she had some very choice words for me. My manager took me to the office to remind me of my carelessness. I've worked at the grocery for 4 years. I don't hate working there, but I'm also not exactly planning on becoming a manager anytime soon. I just don't know what I want to do with my life. I finished the rest of my shift and clocked out. I needed to buy food for dinner, but didn't really want to spend any more time at work that night. I'll just order a pizza when I get home, I thought. It was a warm summer night. The sun was just setting and the sky was painted orange and pink. I had to turn my engine over a few times to get it to start. I just didn't have the money for any repairs, let alone a new car. I turned on the radio and began my commute home. My day played over in my head, and I turned up the radio to drown out the memory of the Karen of a customer screaming at me. My radio started to cut in and out, so I tried changing the station. When I looked up, I slammed on my brakes to avoid a deer staring at me in the middle of the road. We looked into each other's eyes, and it rushed into the woods. There was something off about the way it looked at me. I continued driving and signaled right to turn on the road home. Only there wasn't a road to the right. I've lived in the same house all my life and have taken the same way home from work almost every day. I thought maybe I was just tired or just zoned out after almost hitting the deer earlier. At this point, the sun had set and it was dark on these country roads. I pulled my phone to see how far I had driven out of my way and figure out how long it would take me to get back home. I typed in my address in the map app and hit search. The loading symbol continued spinning until eventually it said, "No results found." "Seriously? Come on," I shouted.
"I didn't get that. Could you try again?"
I angrily typed in my address in various search engines, but my house couldn't be found. What is going on? I tried calling home, but no calls could be completed. I turned my car off and stepped outside. I tried looking through the darkness to see if I could make out any of the signs nearby, but I couldn't see anything outside. It can get dark out on those country roads, but I couldn't make out anything. I got back inside my car and turned the key. The radio inside my car sprang to life, making static noises and shuffling through various stations. Then I began making out words through the static. "He's still following me," the crying woman's voice shouted. The radio continued cycling through stations. "Please, please, please, no!" I heard tires screech along the car, hitting something. The radio then returned to static. What is this? I turned my key again to start the ignition, but it wouldn't start. It usually took a few times to start, but this time, that wasn't the case. I pulled up my phone to try to call for help again when the radio began cycling. I heard slow footsteps and then a car door creak open. "Wait, no!" I could hear the woman screaming through the radio. It sounded like there was a struggle and the woman's screams became muffled and more distant. There was a long pause of static. I jumped at the sound of a gunshot. I turned off the radio and tried calling for help again. After about 3 call failed notifications, I noticed a pair of headlights turn on behind me. I looked in the rearview mirror and noticed the vehicle was just sitting there. I contemplated getting out, but had a bad feeling about their intentions. I didn't know what to do. I had nowhere to go and was just sitting duck. My head felt fuzzy, and in front of me I saw a glimpse of a car with a dead deer on its hood. My vision cleared along with the car in front of me. The truck behind me remained, and I saw the door open in the rearview mirror. The figure stepped outside and just stood there for a moment. The figure then began walking towards my car, and I saw a man in dark clothes slowly taking steps towards me. The radio turned back on, and through the static, I heard a woman shout one word. "Run!" I opened the driver's side door and ran towards the woods next to me. I ran in random directions in an attempt to lose the man chasing me. When I didn't see him anymore, I knelt down and hid behind some bushes. My vision blurred again, and I saw the man. He was covering the mouth of a blonde woman and pushed her to the ground. I felt paralyzed as I helplessly hid. He pulled out a revolver, but she managed to kick him and ran deeper into the dark woods. My vision returned to normal, and I was able to move again. I almost stood up when I heard footsteps nearby. I remained still and watched the man in dark clothes approach the area that I saw the blonde woman and the man with the revolver just moments ago. He took a deep breath and pulled out a revolver from his waist. Is this the same man? I watched as he walked forward. I tried to slowly get up and get back to my car. The man looked in my direction as I accidentally stepped on a stick. Oh no, 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 I thought. He looked away and began walking away from me. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. My head felt fuzzy again and I lost consciousness. I woke up while being dragged through the woods. The man dragged me towards a small hill. I tried getting up, but he took hold of my hair. I looked towards him, his hand with a strong grip of my long blonde hair. What? I felt myself scratching and fighting with the man. Wait, no, no! I heard myself screaming in the blonde woman's voice. I closed my eyes and heard a gunshot. I felt myself rolling down a hill. The man picked up a shovel and proceeded down the hill. I looked down at a brown wallet in my hand that I concealed in my pocket. My vision returned to normal, and I looked around in a panic. I was still hidden in the bush. I looked up and saw a deer locking eyes with me and walked away. I stood up and felt compelled to follow it. The deer ran towards the direction of a small hill that I immediately recognized. I glanced back at the deer, but it was no longer there. I proceeded down the hill and felt chills overtake me. I knelt down and found an old, familiar shovel sticking out of the ground. My hands began shaking as I picked it up and began digging. I lost track of how long I had been digging, but I was almost too tired to continue. I stopped digging for a moment and leaned against the wall of dirt. I looked down and I noticed something sticking out of the ground. I used my phone's light and knelt down. My hands began shaking again as I moved the dirt away. Blonde hair. I recalled my earlier vision and thought about her last moments. I remembered the brown wallet that she picked up and concealed in her pocket. I knelt down and retrieved the wallet and opened it, revealing an ID. The gunman's ID. Is this what you wanted me to find? I asked aloud, not knowing who I was even speaking to. There was a long silence, then I heard footsteps approaching. I remained quiet and still. I slowly looked up and gasped. The man in dark clothes pointed his revolver at me. Before I even had time to react, when I opened my eyes, I was back in my car. I looked ahead and saw a deer staring at me for a moment before running off into the woods. I turned around in fear of the man in the truck, but no one was there. I started my car and began driving again. I sighed in relief when I saw my street sign. I later discovered the blonde woman has been missing for months. I sent an anonymous tip due to not being able to explain how I knew this information. Authorities found her along with the gunman's wallet that they used to track him down, as well as DNA under her nails. It turns out the woman lived nearby. The gunman confessed and followed her from the gas station. Her hitting the deer on the way home he described as a happy accident he just took advantage of. At the end of the interview, the detective got up and began walking to the door. Before opening the door, the detained gunman gave a final statement. "If you found the blonde in the woods interesting, you should check out my basement."